If an angry Namor wasn't enough, the Earth's mightiest heroes have their work cut out for them as all types of new threats start to come out of the woodwork. All this and more in the pages of Avengers issue number 10, the 700th issue of Avengers overall. Alright, this book is huge, so let's waste no time. As we join the story, we're in snowy Russia. It seems that the comrade-in-chief who goes unnamed, along with the US president who also goes unnamed, has just handed down a bunch of major pardons to some of the KGB's most terrifying killers, including one Major Ursa, who, get this, is a mutant who turns into a bear. He's an old Hulk villain we haven't seen forever, but here he is now. You see, Ursa and his buddies were part of an old group called the Winter Guard, basically Russia's answer to the Avengers, as well as their very own Soviet super soldier program. It would seem that the powers that be want the old unit reactivated after Namor's anger got taken out on a bunch of Russian interests along the Black Sea. Leading the group is none other than the original Crimson Dynamo. But it's made clear that Dynamo isn't really running the show. That job is taken up by the Red Widow, the newest graduate of the Red Room experiments, and a character that they tried to launch in backups way back when, but never really made it. Now, back in America, the Avengers are dealing with their own problems right now. Jen Walters and King T'Challa are meeting with the media today. The American government isn't exactly stoked on the idea that their own homegrown superheroes are being led by a foreign king. Steve Rogers also continues to butt heads with General Ross, who is more or less acting as the hand of the president in this situation. He wants the Avengers to be brought in under governmental control, but Cap ain't having it. This story, if you're reading the main Captain America book, you'll know will have to have happened in the past because Steve already knows in his solo series just how evil Ross truly is. The Avengers get assembled to once again deal with Namor and his new team, the Defenders of the Deep, made up of a bunch of Namor supporting characters, mainly villains. Namor is as stubborn as ever, saying that he gave the heroes and the surface dwellers ample warning that if they didn't want to get hurt, they'd stay out of his oceans. The Avengers fire back with, "Hey man, no one can own a body of water, man. That's like far out, man." And also, building a team of legit criminals and monsters doesn't do a lot to endear your cause to the superhero community. A massive fight breaks out between the two sides that only becomes more chaotic when Winter Guard also shows up, hoping to arrest Namor and have him face Russian justice for the Russian crimes he committed. This means our heroes are really confused right now, not exactly knowing whose side anyone is on at this given moment. They're certainly happy for the backup as the fight wasn't going their way beforehand, but they know full well these Russian guys could easily turn on them at the drop of a hat. The morality of this situation only becomes grayer too once the Winter Guard guys start fighting each other, becoming more of a nuisance to themselves. And when a group of innocent bystanders is almost eaten by one of Namor's guys, the Piranha, the King of the Ocean steps on in and ends up executing one of his own dudes, before eventually leading a tactical retreat back to the bottom of the ocean where they'll be harder to follow. Cap and the others aren't exactly sure if they could call this a win. They saved some lives, but it's made very apparent that things have only gotten more dangerous as they enter a new world order with way more super teams to have to contend with. Elsewhere, General Ross has come to more or less the same conclusion. It's a superpowered arms race, and with the Avengers refusing to dance to the beat of his drum and the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. no more, it looks like Thunderbolt is gonna have to outsource a little bit. And who's leading this team? Well, it's a newly resurrected Agent Coulson, backed up by, get this, the Squadron Supreme of America. The Squadron, for those of you who don't know, are basically Marvel analogs of DC's Justice League, and they look more like it now than ever. Now that is pretty shocking, but guess what? We're not done yet. This special 700th issue has a bunch of backup stories, and they're actually all pretty important. First up, we have one involving Robbie Reyes, the Ghost Rider. You see, a drunken Odin beats down Robbie's door in LA one night looking for revenge for the murder of Starbrand, which Ghost Rider technically did back during the beginning of Marvel Fresh Start, but he didn't mean to. It was an accident. Starbrand was out of his mind with fear over the first host. This story also seems to exist so Jason Aaron can placate people like myself who loved Robbie Ray as the all-new Ghost Rider and are a little upset that Jason Aaron didn't even seem to bother to read the Felipe Smith stories. Oh sure, Odin says, you didn't make a deal with the devil, not a deal that you remember, and yeah, all Ghost Riders are different, but maybe what if they weren't different, and yeah, you used the penance stare even though you're not supposed to have that power, but oh, you did anyway, what a mystery, right? I didn't mess up or nothing, it was all intentional from the get-go. Probably the best thing about this backup is actually getting to see Robbie and Odin become friends over coffee, and Robbie saying that he hopes Odin will come back one day and share more stories with him about the old days so Robbie can learn to be a better hero and not repeat the mistakes of his predecessor. Now, the next story actually involves Loki and the Celestials in the fallout of the very first arc. The God of Mischief is all ticked that his plan fell apart, and he is soon shocked to discover that there was actually another player here that he did not consider, and that is Wolverine, everybody. You'll recall that Logan had seemingly gotten involved in Loki's plans to steal Infinity Stones back when Marvel Fresh Start began, but they never really explained how or why. Thankfully, here they do. You see, the Wolverine that we've been dealing with in this story actually isn't the real Wolverine at all, or at least not the one from this time period. He's the Phoenix Wolverine of the future that you may already have read about if you've been checking out Jason Aaron's Thor. Phoenix Wolverine comes from a future where basically everything in the universe has already been destroyed, so he's come back in time to strike some deals with very powerful cosmic beings like the Celestials in exchange for protecting Earth. He also gives us some spoilers about some horrible stuff that might be coming down the pipeline: the War of Realms, a renewed hand ninja clan, a new star brand, maybe multiple new star brands, and oh yeah, Moon Knight leading an army of mummies, because why not? The final backup story here is actually the shortest. It involves the Wasp, Janet Van Dyne, sneaking into territory run by Dracula, the King of the Vampires, to break out Blade, the famous vampire hunter, before extending an invitation for him to come join the Avengers. And so yeah, that was Avengers number 10, or 700 depending on how you choose to count, and it was absolute chaos. It was insane in all the best ways possible. I mean, it really had it all, didn't it? It moves forward the World War Below Namor story. It brings back a bunch of old characters we haven't seen in forever. It resurrects a bunch of fan favorites. It has a little bit of social commentary going on. It's got a bunch of over-the-top action. It answers a ton of questions that fans have been asking. It promises a bunch of really awesome stuff that's coming down the pipeline. It ties together the continuity of several other books. Yep, this is the most comic book I've read in a very long time. Really, the only negative thing I can say about it is that maybe you wouldn't appreciate all the stuff going on here near as much if you haven't been reading the several books that are referenced here within. I have, and I just had a great time with it. I give this one a 9 out of 10.
Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cave Joel again. I want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed what you saw, and if you did, why not take a closer look at some of these other videos I have available from the channel. Then you can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Cave Joel, so you're always up to speed on what I'm doing next. And hey, if you're in a supportive mood, why not check out my Patreon page? Patrons get exclusive access to videos and content before anyone else, and you can do so for as little as $1 a month. I would really appreciate it, and with that, I will be sure to be back again next time with even more great comic content that smacks of greatness. Bye-bye, everyone.